Hello everybody, my name is Mohan Deshpande, and in this course we'll be building two little web apps that are going to take stuff that we've learned in deep learning and actually apply it to building these two nice little web apps. So the first web app that you see on the left is going to be something really cool where the user can upload an image, and we'll be using a state-of-the-art model trained on millions of images to figure out what is in the image. And so you can see I have an image up here of an elephant, and it's telling me that my classifier is telling me that, oh, this is a probability, it's 52% probability that this is an African elephant, which it actually is, so this works out great. And so you can upload images, and the classifier will tell you what the results are. And now on the right, we're going to be taking stuff that we've learned in the auxiliary classifier GANs and generative adversarial networks, and we're going to be building another web app where the user can punch in a digit and generate an image from the GAN that is going to look like as if it were taken from the training set as well. So basically, we're taking the things that we've learned in the past and applying it to building real web projects here. So we're going to be learning a lot about actually taking deep learning and applying it to problems. So in deep learning, there's unfortunately this misconception that all you have to do is define the model, a couple parameters, and then train that sucker, and then it'll train. It'll produce fantastic results. But that's not quite right. There's still a lot of stuff that we can work on under the hood with just doing little things here and there that we can use to really help improve the quality of our models. And even while we do this, we might run into some problems, and so we have to kind of figure out ways around this. So mostly we're going to be discussing, a lot of the applied stuff when we're dealing with deep learning. So some of the topics that we're going to be covering, for example, are like dataset augmentation, which is if you don't have a lot of data, how can you make the most of what you have? We'll be discussing a problem, a particularly challenging problem called overfitting. This is quite a challenging problem, and we're going to be discussing a ton of different ways that we might be able to help. So another thing that we'll be discussing is parameter updating. So far, we've discussed stochastic gradient descent, but there are other updating rules that are used in more state-of-the-art stuff that we'll be discussing. And finally, we're going to be discussing some miscellaneous topics, things like transfer learning and things like letting convolutional networks in particular accept images of varying sizes. We'll be discussing all of this neat stuff. And then finally, we're going to be discussing this framework called Flask, and it basically is what is going to help us create these web apps. So how are we going to learn all this stuff? Well, Zenva's been making courses for like the past 6 years, and we're really excited to have you on board joining us learning all this cool stuff. So here's some of the things that we're going to be looking at. So a lot of these courses consist mainly of video lectures, and you can watch and rewatch them as many times as you want. In addition to video lectures, we have downloadable source code, so everything that we work on in the projects are going to be available for you to download and start off with. And one of the things that works really well is if you code along with me while we're going through the project. There's going to be like coding sections, and I'll kind of explain some code and write some code, and so if you kind of follow along with me, in this case, you'll have a better idea because you're going to kind of be getting your hands dirty with a lot of this code. And then finally, we've seen that the people who take these online courses, myself included, I take a lot of online courses myself. The students that take these courses and really get a lot out of them are the students that kind of make like a weekly plan and stick with it. Of course, this depends on your own availability and learning style, but kind of making a plan tends to work well. So as I mentioned, Zenva for like over the past 6 years has taught tons of different topics on like programming, game development, to something like over 250,000 students. This is over the course of like 50 different courses. And the skills that they learn in these courses are completely transferable. And in fact, we've heard stories about these students who have used the skills that they've learned in these courses to do things like they advance their own careers. They were actually able to make a startup or build a company, or they publish their own content like apps and games just from the skills that they've learned in these courses. So thanks again for joining, and I look forward to seeing all the cool stuff that you'll be building. So without further ado, let's get started.